You laugh, you think, and you cry. That's a full day. That's a heck of a day.
We'll have to tell you which songs are inspired by your wine, like which songs were written while indulging.
I don't think I'll ever forget, David, you saying, be your best champion.
All right, let's have some fun.
To next year.
Start with this beautiful Wagyu short rib. We're gonna just coat it in the Yemenite spice.
I'm like, it's Sage Steele. Sage Steele's coming. And he's like, if it's Sage Steele, just write it to 3. I'm like,
Join us as we savor world-class wine, experience culinary adventures, and discover inspiring stories from our dedicated community of vintners, chefs, artisans, and beyond as we go behind the V. Hi, everyone, and welcome to Behind the V. I am AJ, and today we are coming at you from the prestigious Mayacama Golf Club. I am honored to be joined today by General Manager, pardon me, cough, by General Manager Dan Michael and Executive Chef James Corwell. And also, coming from virtually his library, Stuart Bryan, who is our our Sonoma Epicurean chairman and also the Vintner ambassador for Pride Mountain Wines. Welcome, everybody. How are you?
It's great to be here.
It's good to be here. It's a gorgeous day at the course.
Beautiful day in Sonoma County.
Indeed.
Glad to be here at Mayacama. Stuart, we miss you. Wish you were here with us around the table today.
nothing would make me happier than to join you at the table today.
You're definitely missing some of the gorgeous views here, Stuart. And the deer, of course, are coming out. I've seen a few
Wow.
here. It's beautiful. So if you haven't been to Mayacama, everyone, I highly recommend coming and checking it out. So today, Stuart, I'm so grateful for, and I'm speaking on behalf of the V Foundation. We are also grateful for you and Suzanne and Pride Mountain Vineyards and how generous and supportive you have been to the V Foundation for so many years. I know that Suzanne was our Vintner Grand Honoree, I believe, first in 2012 for breast cancer. And then again, I believe it's in 2018 for our 20th anniversary year. So taking that passion and that generosity, you are now bringing it over to the other side, to Sonoma County. And we are so thrilled to have you at our inaugural event, the Sonoma Epicurean. To continue in the generosity, what we're going to be doing today, everyone, is Chef has some culinary adventures for us.
I do. That
we are going to be pairing with the V Hope, I believe it's the V Hope Trio from Pride Mountain Vineyards. So we'll be trying these 3 wines with these wonderful small plates that we have here. Just so you know, Pride Mountain Vineyards will be donating 20% of the proceeds from the purchase of this trio back to the V Foundation. So that offer will be available until December 31st. I highly recommend you go as soon as possible and purchase all the wine that you can so you can make sure to get it, get stocked up, especially, I would say post-holidays too. So Stuart, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about the first wine that we're going to be trying today?
I would love to get into the Viognier fairly quickly. It's one of our beautiful white wines, but I want to take 1 minute and touch base on a couple of things. Certainly to thank you, Amanda, and the entire team at V Foundation. You are raising vital money for cancer research with the goal, of course, victory over cancer. So we appreciate all of your hard work and organization and all that you do at the V Foundation. And we love our wine celebration team in California. You guys are the best. So thank you again. Suzanne and I have been honored to be part of the national promotion for V Foundation for nearly 2 decades and look forward to continuing to devote time and energy along with other fellow vintners to carry the cause. I want to send greetings to everybody out there from the winery and from our family and from all of us at Pride Mountain Vineyards. At Pride, we have a remarkable team. I just want to emphasize that from the vineyards to the production to the administration to marketing. It is just a really impressive, remarkable group of people. All of them are truly exceptional. They really shape Pride Mountain to be what it is. You may know that we're perched atop the Mayacama Mountains, over 2,000 feet elevation. We're overlooking both Napa and Sonoma counties. And a fun thing, I just want to mention this, it's very interesting to a lot of people, that at the peak of the mountain, we form the county line, and that runs through our vineyards. So we actually have adjacent or contiguous, you could say, vineyards in Napa and Sonoma County. So I always like to tell people, when you come to Pride Mountain Vineyards, you get 2 tours for the price of 1. You get to hang in Sonoma and drink some Napa wines, and we don't charge you double. Normally we don't, but I just wanted to share that. It's a great story that we have vineyards and a winery in Napa, vineyards and a winery in Sonoma County, and it's kept us busy with taxes and compliance. We do have a terrific tasting presentation for you today, but however, I wanted you all to know in the coming year, I'm going to go ahead right now. Sometimes we do this at the end of the show, but I'm going to do the end of the show first and say we want to invite you in person to our historic property firsthand. Of course, weather, travel, and COVID concerns allowing. So we hope to see you next year at Pride Mountain Vineyards. So today we are happy to be kicking off a new program, Sonoma Epicurean, very similar in a way to Wine Celebration, which we've done in Napa for 22 years. But Sonoma Epicurean will be based in Sonoma County. It will feature Sonoma venues, such as Mayacama Golf Club, Sonoma wineries, and of course Sonoma County wines, along with other local artisan producers that will be involved, of course. So on that note, relating to Sonoma County, I just want to thank everybody personally for your concern, excuse me, during the wildfires. Yes, we've had traumatic challenges in Sonoma County, just like Napa County, just like our North Coast, and just like the entire West Coast. What is really most assuring is the fact that each year we get knocked down, we rise up stronger, we rise up determined, and we rise up more resourceful. So our thanks go out to all of you for your thoughts and your concern. So today is very special because we get to kick off a new program, one that fosters hope in fighting against cancer, hope in the development of new research and new cures, and hope with the notion that we might be able to get together sometime soon and celebrate. Because I don't love anything more than the clinking sound of those glasses when they come together. So we couldn't be happier to share this opportunity with Mayacama Golf Club and these 2 spirited and expert gentlemen that are here with us. And I know, Dan, you want to weigh in on this first one, because I know you've tasted their Viognier recently.
Yeah, I have to say, when we had a chance to sit down and taste the wines to talk about the program today, this wine just came out of the glass to both Chef Corral and I. It's one of those wines, I think it's emblematic of Pride Mountain. I've enjoyed this wine for a number of years. And for me, it's one of those wines that I look for in the holiday season to really open things up, right? It's aromatic. It reminds me of when my orange tree in my backyard blossoms, and I have that sort of intoxicating smell of orange in the air. For me, it sort of evokes all sorts of emotions, starts to get my mouth to water a little bit. And then as I taste it, what really came to me was the spice. And I think that's the hallmark of Viognier. This is the type of wine I look for in the holidays to put out for people to enjoy as they gather. I think it applies to a wide range of things that we have on our table.
Beautiful. Well, I know that I can't steal Chef's thunder, but he's got something up his sleeve. But in this season, when you have Dungeness crab, we like to do a seared scallop, prawns on the grill. It just goes on and on. It's a wine that can actually take a little bit of spice and a range of flavors. But the beauty of Viognier for us really is the elevation and the fact we're farming in volcanic soils. What that brings to this wine is not just some underlying elegant richness, but the aromatic range and some bright acidity. And when I taste this with chefs, they really remark on that. They like the punch, the lift, the way, as you've already said, Dan, very capably, the way it comes out of the glass. The brief history is Jim Pride, after a trip in France, discovered Condrieu. And he just had this itch to do something different on the property. We had a section that we wanted to replant, and he thought this is ideal because it's southeast facing in rocky soils at elevation of 2,000 feet. And Viognier, this is in 1990, was just kind of on the horizon. Phelps, Calera, there were a couple people that were making some, but we got some cuttings and planted our first vineyard block and didn't get any fruit until 1994. It's a beautiful, aromatic, expressive wine that we grow Chardonnay and produce 2 Chardonnays, but this wine's unique to itself, and it's one that we like to have on the table with Chef's Special Cuisine.
Speaking of Chef's Special Cuisine, what culinary adventure are we pairing with this one, Chef?
So I decided to go more or less plant-based. These foods are emblematic of a perhaps a more cancer friendly diet. And with the Viognier specifically, because of the high acid and because there's a creaminess element to it, I've paired with this a seasonal lightly pickled butternut squash salad that's been mixed with some very thinly sliced, very sweet, almost honeysuckle-like Asian pear. And with that, a little bit of tamari and natural yeast vinaigrette. Also, there's toasted cashew in here, which really kind of lends that little bit of creaminess that you're looking for to pair with the wine as well. By the way, Stuart, this wine is absolutely beautiful. It's just a luscious example of great American winemaking, a true treasure, as is all of these. I'll probably say this several times, but quite enjoyable to drink and to lift the bottle, so to speak.
Well, I may just insert very quickly, a lot of credit goes to Sally Johnson, our winemaker, who lives right there in Santa Rosa, and really directs the farming on this as well as the winemaking. Just for fun, I'm going to say Viognier is kind of that schizophrenic grape to grow, but once the grapes are on the crush pad, she has her way with them. It's a wine that teaches some patience, certainly, but she really has a knack for bringing out the character that you've described very well, Chef. So beautiful and creative pairing.
Oh, Stuart, do you mind if we taste the pairing without you?
Yes, so sorry.
I was going to pretend I'm in on it, but I'll just have some pretzels on the side here.
So Dan, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this as you try this tasting with this wine. What are your initial thoughts?
I'm always interested, pardon me, in how the food interacts with the wine, right? This wine, when I taste it before the food, I would get a really nice sort of citrus component. But after I taste the dish, here comes all the honey quality of this wine. I think it really accentuates the fruit. And I think the acidity in the dish is always going to bring out other fruit flavors in the wine. You know, one of the things that I see in working with chefs over my career is adjusting 2 things, either adjusting salt or adjusting acidity. This is a dish that I think is got great acidity to it. I think it meets the acidity in the wine, and then all of a sudden it uncovers all sorts of layers in this wine. This is not a simple white wine. This is a white wine that is layered with some honey, some spice. And as I think about the almost exotic sort of quality of the salad, I think it really starts to make this wine come out of its own shell, if you will. I like what the toasted cashews do here. I think that's a move that I would use a lot with wine to give it that sort of creaminess. But to me, it makes this wine much more dynamic. Great pairing, Chef. I think really well done.
Yeah, I think we nailed it. I think we nailed it on this one.
Definitely nailed it. I will say my favorite part of this is, honestly, I'd never had it before, is the pickled butternut squash. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
It is very creative.
Yeah.
I've never thought to do that.
I got the recipe coming for you.
Is that right? Oh, that is right. So we will be posting later for those that are interested in trying this. So Stuart, you can make it at home for Suzanne.
Or you just come on down, Stuart. And we'll
Exactly.
You didn't know that I ordered to go? You didn't get that?
Uber
It's on
Eats
its
is
way
a,
to you.
yeah.
So we will have the recipe available for everyone from Chef. Thank you for that. That's
No,
wonderful
thank you.
being able to share
Great
that.
idea.
Okay, so again, for those that are just joining us, so I am here at Mayacama with Behind the V with General Manager Dan Michael and Chef James Corwell. And then we are being joined virtually by Mr. Stuart Bryan from Pride Mountain Wines. And if you have any questions or comments, please drop them in the comments. We can see all of them, or at least our producer can, and then we'll try to answer some questions live for everyone as well. So it's great to see everybody on here. Stuart, why don't we go forward into the Syrah? I think that would be a great transition.
Well, we enjoy this pairing or this sequence. I'm going to say first of all, following Viognier, which is of course a wine that originated in the Rhone Valley, where Syrah, particularly in the northern Rhone, really thrives. Syrah was not originally planted in the property when we purchased it in 1989, but we started sequentially planting some new vineyards and a process of replanting. And the point is, the Syrah vineyard blocks are each planted on a different soil type. And a key aspect to us is that we have 6 soil types within our boundaries of the property. 235 acres and 90 acres of vineyards, 50 different vineyard blocks. They're individual, different soils, planted differently, possibly different trellising systems. So the point to this, as Sally and our vineyard team nurtures the fruit in each one of these locations, each site is contributing something slightly different. One may be just slightly more phenolic in its character. One may have that aromatic range that we're really looking for, color or texture. Sally very artfully brings these back together in the blend. One of these added features, if I may say, the wine is not 95%. I just let the cat out of the bag. It's not 100% Syrah. It's 95% Syrah. The difference being a small component of Viognier, which we've done for a number of years right now, and then also a little shot of Grenache, one of its brother Rhone varieties. These add a little bit more of that nuance, aromatic range, some texture, just add some more complexity to this wine. It's a full throttle red wine, but really has elegant tannins. And to me, and I think we talked about this in our previous tasting, to me, a real signature of great Syrah is that elegant texture, that velvet texture that we look for. For me, when I open a bottle, the first thing I turn around and say is, after smelling the Syrah, is, what am I going to eat? What am I going to cook? And typically, I think chef likes to laugh at me when I say this, but typically I'm going to fire up my grill. I burn barrel staves. I burn different hardwoods. I'm going to marinate. I'm going to put some other things on there. It's just kind of fun, but it really pairs out nicely with some good, rich proteins, different meats. Sometimes in a wine dinner, when we're at that point and we need to, this wine, because of its acidity, will pair nicely with cheeses, especially with hard cheeses. So it's like another secret weapon for us that we can use during a cheese course if needed. On one case, and everybody at the winery doesn't always agree on this, but in one case, because of the number of wines, we positioned the Syrah at the end with the chocolate dessert, and it was awesome. Everybody there said it was Dan will have fun with this. It was a chocolate molten cake. And as you get into it, you can picture that in with the Syrah, and it's a very versatile wine. It's one of the things I love about Syrah. Is one of the great international and global wines, a noble variety that it stands up with so many different foods and really wants to play on the table and in the kitchen.
Well, speaking of playing, what are we pairing with this?
So I just have to say, I find this wine to be very great structured, and it reminds me of an adolescence. It reminds me of a strong, youthful wine that is ready to go. And so that type of aggression, we paired it with some Tuscan kale that's been braised in olive oil and garlic, a little bit of chili, and finished with some Parmesan cheese. But these bold flavors and these bold wines, I think they're going to make a great, not like two bulls, not clashing, but doing their thing in the field, and it's all nature.
It's a dance.
It's a dance.
Well, I think
I love this wine.
If anybody didn't miss that at all, my mouth is watering. I hope everybody else is too.
It is wonderful. Now, while we're trying this, Dan, sorry, I keep throwing to you while we're trying to taste. I can't help but notice, and I really hope it's coming across on the screen, the sun is starting to set here at Mayacama, and it is absolutely magical. I mean, magical here. Can you tell us a little bit more about Mayacama?
About the club? Well, you've hit us in what we call magic hour, right? So this is getting close to dusk. So this club was founded in 2001. It was a vision of a developer named David Wilhelm. He really saw there was an opportunity to create a world-class golf club in wine country. We couldn't really think of a place anywhere else in America where this was the case. And so he looked for a piece of land. Here we are in the watershed of the Mayacama Mountains. This was actually part of the Charles Schultz estate. There's about 675 acres here at the estate. You can see our clubhouse that sits up on the hill above the 18th hole. That's the centerpiece of this property. We're about 45,000 square feet in our clubhouse. Today we're sitting in our rotunda that has this beautiful panoramic view of the golf course. We're surrounded by hills here. It's a very natural environment. And so in establishing a world-class golf club, we needed a world-class designer. So Mr. Wilhelm enlisted Jack Nicklaus to come and create a signature golf course. We have been ranked in the top 100 in the United States since our third year. And that brought a lot of people and interest to the club almost 20 years ago. The second piece of this was developing a residence program. So we have 21 residential units here, 1-bedroom casitas and 3-bedroom villas. And the idea was to create an opportunity for people to have their own home in wine country. And so today we have a very vibrant residence club membership that will come and spend a week here at the club. Beyond golf, there's lots of activities here: hiking, cycling, swimming, court sports. It's a family club. Probably a third of our members have young families that love to come and enjoy the property. The third piece of the vision was a wine program, not just a wine program. It's what Golf Magazine has called the best wine program in a private club in America. That came to from a commitment to the Vintner community here. So there were 20 Vintners that signed the original charter to the club. Most of those Vintners are still here today. We have a community of 40 Vintners engaged in the club. And so I have to say, I was meeting some new members a few weeks ago, and they described the Mayacama experience. They come here to immerse themselves in wine country. They went to a winery for one of our Vintner members and had a tasting and met the proprietor. He came here and played golf with them the next day. They had lunch out on our terrace, enjoying a bottle of his wine. And to us, that really was emblematic of what we've tried to create here. And so we're actually looking out on our terrace here where our members can come enjoy a glass of wine after dinner. We've also got a beautiful courtyard here with 100-year-old olive trees. That's a place where many of our events, like our Vintner Pour in the summertime, will occur. We've also got a beautiful bar and grill here, very clubby, a place to come and have a glass after golf, enjoy some of Chef's cuisine. And from there, we've got a beautiful dining room, which is our fine dining venue, as well as an adjacent living room where many of our members will come and relax before or after dinner next to the fire. And then one of the real centerpieces of the club is an underground wine cellar that has 500 private wine lockers for our members that houses their collection. We have a private buying program here for our members with a lot of our Vintner members where people can sell their wines, and when they come to the property, enjoy them in any of our venues. So that is Mayacama. I wish I could share it with all of you today. I know Stuart's been here and had a chance to see the property, but it really is a spectacular place to spend time.
It truly is. And one of the things I was absolutely fascinated by, obviously the entire landscape is so gorgeous, but really the photo is incredible, but it still doesn't do justice to the wine cellar downstairs, how expansive that is. It is a maze of just beauty and all these different little nooks. It's so fun. And to transition into that, if you do go to Sonoma Epicurean .org, I believe, it'll be .org or .com. If you do sign up for our event, it will be in March. I tend to mess up the dates every time. I say it's March 24th through 27th, I believe.
Right.
Sign up at Sonoma Epicurean. Dan and Chef have both been so generous to host us here for our Friday night event for the Sonoma Epicurean. So you could actually come and experience a little bit of Mayacama.
Yeah, we are a private members only club, and only maybe once or twice a year we'll open up. I think when the V Foundation came to ask us about hosting this inaugural event here at Mayacama, it was a very fast yes for us. This is for both Chef Coral and I, as well as the owners. It's a very personal connection to the work that you're doing at V Foundation. And I think it also gives an opportunity for our members to see the important work that you're doing. So at the Friday night event, we'll have people that are able to come and join, as well as some of our members that will come here and meet many of the principals for V Foundation. I think it's a great opportunity for the club as well. Absolutely.
Absolutely. And we can't thank you enough. You do say it's very personal. If you don't mind my asking, why for you? What's the connection for you with
I think a lot of people have a personal story. In our family, my partner Wanda has 3 breast cancer survivors in her family.
Oh, wow.
And that's motivated her after a 25-year career in the medical industry. She's now working with breast cancer patients, doing oncology research trials at Kaiser here in Sonoma County. And every night over the dining table, I hear the stories of those patients. And it really brings home the work. And actually, when I came home and told her that this event would be hosted here, the pride that she's had and her organization's pride for the work that you're doing, I think was very emotional for all of us.
Yeah. Wow. That's really touching for us. Thank you. And, stories like that, to be honest, that's one of the reasons why we do this series as well, is to find out the stories behind our supporters. And it is stories like that that really continue to motivate us to keep doing the work that we're doing. So thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It's awesome. I am still kind of over the moon about this second pairing, Chef. I won't lie to you. You are right. It does work. It totally works.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Stuart was talking about the texture of the wine, and I think the texture of this wine is extraordinary, right? And that comes from, in my experience, mountain fruit delivers a lot of that texture. But I will say, if you haven't cooked these types of greens like Tuscan kale, the texture of them is really incredible. There is a chew there that is almost like almost a meatiness to it. Yeah. And the way that you raised it, Chef, and I think the texture of the dish and the wine work really well.
They do. Aggressive foods, strong wines, can't lose.
I think there's a lesson there. Don't be afraid to go aggressive.
Yeah. Go big or go home.
Exactly. Go big or go home. All right. Well, once again, if you guys are just joining us, again, go ahead and drop any questions or comments in your comment feed from wherever you're watching from, and we'll be monitoring those and answering questions throughout the live as well. I think, are you guys ready? I am really excited about this third pairing. Are you guys ready? Yes. I think we're ready for the Merlot, Stuart.
I always like to egg people on a little bit. Are you? I always say at the end of each wine, let's ask for questions. Are you getting anything in chat? Have you had questions that have popped up yet?
I unfortunately don't know this time because my producer can see them and I can't. We're in a new situation where I can't see them, but she'll text me or pop them up if we know.
Okay, maybe we'll just wrap that up at the end a little bit. See if anybody has specific questions that relate to the wines or otherwise. We always like to be informative. Well, the Merlot, and I'm going to be honest about this part. The guys there, Dan and Chef, tasted through some Pride Mountain wines, and one of them they selected for this tasting was Merlot. And I think we all kind of agreed that Merlot, when well made, can be a stunning, attractive, riveting wine. It kind of defines us. And I had mentioned when we had our initial tasting or screening, let's call it, that we make 13 wines at Pride Mountain Vineyards each year. 3 of those are Cabernet and 3 of those are Merlot. And that's roughly, I'll just throw out a ballpark number, about 2/3 of our production. We make several other wines. Once you have dinner with somebody or you get them in the corner and say, what's your favorite Pride? They may say Viognier. Some people love Cabernet Franc. We've known people that have driven up the mountain just to buy more Syrah. But one of the things that defines us, I think, is our ability to make a great Merlot. And we discussed this last time, and I think we all concluded that many people in many places around the globe, in many appellations, make great Cabernet. It's harder, we feel, to make a great Merlot. And this property on top of the Mayacama Mountains kind of defines that but also we've captured the essence, the farming practices there to create this Merlot. There's a picture coming up right now that'll just give you a glimpse of one of the vineyard blocks. You can see something that's quite attractive and unusual, where the canopy is lifted. It's called vertical trellis, and the fruiting zone is below. And the key to that is it opens up the vineyard so you can actually get sun to the grapes, which further thickens the skins and adds what my brother-in-law Steve Pride likes to call the phenolics, the building blocks of the wine. That's where you get additional color aromatics. The difference that sets us apart at elevation, a key thing, is the fact that these vines struggle at elevation in these primordial volcanic soils. So the yields are a little bit lower, the grape size is a little bit smaller, the skin to pulp ratio is a little bit higher. And what that means is you have wines that are really good dimension and color and flavor. They're quite dramatic and layered in their flavor. These wines, by the way, people love them when they're released. We're releasing or tasting right now the 2018 Merlot. But these wines are gorgeous, given a decade, 10, 15 years. Cabernets possibly aging a little bit longer. We're at that point now with our first vintage in 1991 that we can truly see the ageability of some of these wines, the reserve wines lasting as good as 25 or 30 years, almost the character of our first growth Bordeaux, if you will. But they're terrific wines to have in the cellar, but really fun wines to enjoy right now. One of the things that stands apart in this wine, or helps define it, I feel, is the fact there's plenty of tannins. We always say there's really good tannin definition, but they're supple tannins. They're approachable tannins. They're very drinkable tannins. They glide through the palate, they finish nicely, and they pick up flavors both on your palate and with the food as they go along. Dan or Chef, last time, one of you commented a little bit about that spicy element in the reds, and that is a combination of volcanic soil, a little bit of almost a baker's spice. Maybe it's cinnamon, maybe it's nutmeg, maybe it's clove, that gives this wine another dimension. It makes it terrific with food. But also in the barrel regime that Sally uses, it's new French oak, not a large percentage, but there's just that element of toast and spice that comes together that marries with the fruit, marries with the expression of the soil. So my favorite thing, and we had a laugh on this last time when I said it, so I'm going to repeat it. We love when people show up and we give them a glass of red wine and they take it and they stand there and they look at you and they go, you know, we really love your Cabernet Sauvignon. And I'll look and say, you know, we really do too, but excuse me, sir, excuse me, ma'am, that's Merlot you're drinking right now. Flabbergasted for a second, but they realize the depth and dimension to Merlot grown at this elevation really does set it apart. So we've sort of hung our hat, if I can say, on Merlot since our very first vintage in 1991. And I can't wait to hear what Chef came up with this one.
So for me, this is the father compared to the mother of the Viognier. And in the middle is the adolescent. This one here has instant notes of cocoa and leather. And I think it's really easy to go with a piece of meat or a grilled piece of meat, like you mentioned earlier, Stuart. But I wanted to be a little more challenging. And so what I did here was go with an heirloom bean. It's an heirloom lima bean that is braised in a little bit of chili, garlic, and onion, and it's finished with cocoa. To emulate that cocoa flavor. And it's luscious, it's subtle, and it's spicy, very similar to the wine. And yeah, I hope the panel enjoys it. I'm going to try it right now.
I'm going to try it.
Again, I wish you were here.
And it looks like we actually have a question from one of our viewers, from Taylor Rell. So, Chef, I would love to know where you get your inspiration from.
Wow.
So, as once you try.
So I get my inspiration from the wine, or I get my inspiration from the season, or I get my inspiration from my colleagues, and or I get my inspiration from what needs to be done that everybody else seems to be missing. And so in this instance, I think veggies are a very important part of our diet, and we tend to go straight to seafood and meat. And in this case, I just wanted to show, wow, there's great texture, there's great flavor we can build here to go with great wines.
Well, I'm inspired by you every day, Chef. And I'm also inspired by these wines. And I have to say that this pairing is so unexpected, right? And what I find in both of these is there is so much depth in the wine, right? It hasn't lost its balance. There's still plenty of acidity. There's still those things that I like for it to be food friendly. But boy, when I taste the beans, there is a depth of flavor here. And the idea that this is vegan is really incredible to me because there's a meatiness to it that I just can't ignore, right? And boy, it has a long finish, like we talk about the wine, Stuart, right? It's one of those pairings to me that, and I would say this about the wines across the board, they've sort of taken the best of the old world, right? Of these varieties and the way that we grow them, but it's truly California, right? It also has that exuberance. It also has that fruit. And in those wines, I find it in these dishes as well, right? I mean, this is a chef in California using great products and creating things that to me is that best amalgamation of sort of those old world ideas and new world products, right? And to me, this is that intersection that's so exciting. I mean, and I encourage everybody to sort of explore these plant-based options in wine pairing. Many times I tell people, it's not about the center of the plate. It's not necessarily about the protein. It's about the bridge of flavors like this to the wine, right? And when I taste this dish and I go back and taste this wine, it's like, oh gosh, what a marriage, right? You see the same thing in the dish?
Absolutely. I was going to say, I think we had talked about that last week, where admittedly, as many wine tastings as I've been to, it always tends to go back to a protein. So that was one of my key questions for Chef last week, even, is how can we pair this with a vegan or vegetarian diet? And just like you said, I am so impressed with how well, again, I think you really described it perfectly, just the depth and meatiness and just the substantial, it feels substantial. And I think that that's something where a lot of people who, when they think about looking toward a more plant-based diet, maybe that's something that tends to come up. And I think that something like this is a perfect example that it absolutely can hold up on its own, and it has excellent pairing with the wine.
Well, I would never deny a piece of pizza with this wine.
Amen.
But that said, look, I mean, the more plants you eat, the healthier you're going to be. And time and history proves that out. Science is proving that out. And when you think about cancer in this day and age, it's not normal that we have this much cancer amongst our family and our friends and our society. And what can we do to change that? Part of that for me as a chef is food. Food can be medicine or it can be poison. And it's my belief that it's expensive to eat cheap. It's like it's expensive to drink cheap wine. But, we need a food culture. Pride wines are part of the American authentic food culture, and we need more of that. These butternut squash are indigenous to the Americas. Braised greens are part of our cultural heritage. Heirloom beans are, again, part of our cultural heritage. The stronger food culture we have as a society, the more we care about the food that everybody eats. And the better we all eat, the less disease we have.
Absolutely. Every time you mentioned, again, we had chatted last week about this, and it's just absolutely fascinating. Just the depth, that you have in that, and the passion that you have. And I'm sure it's coming across on screen as well, but you can truly feel it, just the passion that you have, especially for...
Because you care about food.
Yes,
I care about food.
Of course.
And if you love food...
What makes That's what makes you an amazing chef.
That's it. Yeah.
Well, and one of the other things you had actually touched on too that I'd really love to dive into, because it was such an electric conversation, specifically with you and Stu, is the just the importance of Sonoma in that food culture and the uniqueness of what we have here at our disposal as well.
Sure.
And Stu, feel free to come in
Stuart,
on this.
I'm going to build you up here. American food culture, for me and most people, doesn't really extend beyond 1950. Let's face it. I mean, our mother's mother, it was TV dinners and what have you.
Casseroles.
But, Sonoma, Northern California, maybe upstate New York, pockets here and there are really giving us that boutique, finer, let's exalt American products from the land food culture. And these are national treasures. Stuart is emblematic of those national treasures. These heirloom beans and heirloom squashes and greens of the season are emblematic of that. We need to protect that. We need to invest in that as individuals, as culinarians, as Epicureans. But Sonoma is unique. It really is that shining jewel of what it is for the best of the American culinary landscape. And again, whether it be food, whether it be wine, we're in the thick of it here. And it's important to bring language around that.
I'll raise a glass to that.
Absolutely.
Here's the Sonoma County.
Cheers.
Here's the Epicurean.
That is actually a lot. I think a key thing that you're leading us to, Chef, with those brilliant comments, it's a point of balance. Really, it's what we give to the property or that site and what we take from it. And it's really that key of balance in farming and even in business management and probably in our lives. I think that's what we're all looking for. So your presentations today have been brilliant. Dan, your comments are always so fascinating because you like the wines, you get out to that other layer that we like a little bit. I'm going to share a couple of things on the Merlot with you that help, again, define us and stand apart, if I may. But one thing that is interesting, when people pick up a bottle of Merlot, consistently it shows both appellations. As we mentioned earlier, the county line runs through the properties. So we have Merlot growing adjacent, contiguous, if I may say, in Napa and Sonoma in separate blocks. And at the end of the day, Sally's art is blending those very carefully and very accurately. This vintage is 83% Napa, 17% Sonoma. And that's going to vary every year. There's no formula or no recipe. It's what Mother Nature gives us. It's what the vintage that year defines. And so we have a sort of a play in both counties participating in making this blend. Doesn't happen in too many places in the world. For fun, I'll let you know also, it's not 100% Merlot. People that have tasted our Merlot over the years always know that there's another component there. Typically, we add a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon. Maybe the secret weapon, or goes back to some of your early comments on this wine and its aromatic range right now. There's a little bit of Cabernet Franc. So the wine is 83% Merlot, 12% Cabernet, and 5% Cab Franc. And for me, since we do make a varietal Cabernet Franc, and it's a favorite variety of mine personally, I think it's expressing itself right now. It's coming out with that really bright berry, almost a blueberry. There's tons of cherry, just goes on. And it's fun because this is a 2018, meaning a fairly young wine, of course, but that has a lot of expression, a lot of range already. So those are a couple things that are always fun. People always like to pick up a bottle of our wine and say, oh, it's more Sonoma than it is Napa this year, which is always fun. But we play on that blend each year, and it doesn't mean that we have to add Cabernet, and we don't always add Cabernet Franc, but it's the best wine that Sally can make, that vintage, by using those components and that blend together. So some of you may remember, I'm just going to say this very quickly, in the 1998 vintage, which those that have been around for a while or have looked up the vintage charts, was not the best year in California. It was rain and it was cold and it was late. We hung some fruit out in 1998 and finished harvest for the first time in November, that vintage. And it ends up, to roll the story forward and complete this, it ends up the 1998 Merlot in a tough vintage that wine writers had panned and dismissed, etc. It was the first time that we made top 100 wines of the world. It was one of the best red wines we'd ever made, and a vintage that people had discarded. So it's just fun to learn from Mother Nature. If you do things a little bit differently, don't look at a calendar, don't look days on the vine, just look at what's happening in your vineyard site and farm carefully. We took a really crappy vintage and made one of our best red wines with the Pride Mountain Merlot, 1998. So it's taught us several things in the vineyard. We have variation by vineyard blocks based on clonal selection, these soil type, other things. But Merlot has been a special learning curve for us. And it's just fun to take these wines out in the world because, you know, many people like our Cab Franc. People seek out our Cabernet. It goes on from there. But people now, after 25 years of promoting this wine nationally, actually walk up to the table and stand there and they go, "Do you have the Merlot today?" They ask for the Merlot. Couldn't make me any happier.
I'll admit it's one of my favorites.
I
So I think we actually have a question that popped up. I received a text message. Oh, it's from Sasha. How long is the V Hope Trio available? So Sasha, it is going to be available until December 31st.
That's right.
It is.
So think early.
Exactly. So limited time for the holidays. Go ahead and get your trio now. It's a great gift option. So it'll be available until December 31st, and 20% of the proceeds from the V Hope Trio will be coming back to the V Foundation. So not only is it a great gift idea, but you're also giving back to the V.
Yeah, I just want to add to what Stuart was saying.
Absolutely, please do.
It's your attention to the land is so important, because if you didn't do that, you wouldn't be able to create this unique technology that you've been able to suss out of the grapes in the blending process. It is natural, it's beautiful, and it's just amazing what you've created here.
Well, thank you, Chef.
And it's great to hear you talk about the land in such a special way and how valuable it is to the production of the wine.
Thank you.
I think you said it best last week on our call. You had said it, and I'm going to keep quoting it for the Sonoma Epicurean. But you said that Pride Mountain Vineyards was a natural resource and a national treasure. And I think
Yes.
I think that just summed it up so perfectly.
Well, again, how we value food really translates into how we value how other people eat. But that aside, as the world evolves and people come on board, natural resources, whether it be air, water, land, vineyards, will become even more in demand. And we need to start looking at our natural resources as national treasures. It is so important for us to really value these natural commodities that we have and treasure them, because we're not getting any more, and they're only becoming in more supply or more in demand. And yeah, I mean, it's and if we don't treasure them, somebody else will come in and swoop them out from underneath us. So these are unique to us here in the U.S., and we need to maintain that connection. And again, this is our culture we're developing here. These are emblematic of who we are here in the United States. And wow, how cool is that?
It is so cool. And it is so cool. Again, I just get blown away each time. One of the things that I just love so much about everything that you're saying is it lines up so perfectly with our vision for the Sonoma Epicurean as well. For those that are watching, because I'm sure we have many of our wine celebration people watching as well. The wine celebration in Napa it's its own event on its own accord, and we have such a special experience there.
It's ground zero.
It is ground zero. But I think that one of the most important things about to really highlight for the Sonoma Epicurean is that everything that you're talking about with the sustainability, with really honoring our food culture here and bringing people into that, it's going to be so much more of an immersive experience, which I think is one of the key things here, why I was so excited about this particular segment, is having, I mean, I have 3 completely top-notch gentlemen to speak exactly to that. And I know obviously each of you will be involved in the Sonoma Epicurean in March as well.
Absolutely.
And in various ways, clearly. But I think that is one of the special things. It's the heartbeat behind the Epicurean, is really to bring people in and get immersed into the culture here and to get inspired by that culture.
Yes.
Both, obviously from chefs, from artisans, getting everyone out into the community as well. So yeah, I love that.
Good deal.
It's
Good deal.
Such a good one.
And we need more of this in our lives.
We really do.
Because it doesn't happen every day.
Mm-hmm.
And for many people, they don't get to experience this. But this is food and how it should be, how it always used to be. And it's important to keep that in context. This is real food for real people.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And great wines for those fortunate enough to be able to taste them. Thank you.
So on that passion too, I would be remiss if I didn't mention it. Could you tell us a little bit about your recent project and speaking to
Sure.
United Nations? I could not bring this up.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to give a little word or two to the United Nations.
No big deal.
No big deal. And,
It really is.
I put forth a mission to bring about solutions and how we feed 12 billion people by the year 2100. And I think I'm very optimistic about the future, but again, it has to do with sustainability and really looking at our natural resources as national treasures and creating green industries in the face of economic challenges related to higher prices of meat, higher prices in seafood, and what are the most efficient ways for us to feed ourselves and others vis-a-vis plant-based foods. So if you look in history, most great societies throughout antiquity were based in plant-based, and I think there's a lot to be learned from them as we move forward, kind of completing the circle. What is old is new again. Treasures, real treasures, like our natural resources, and artisans and boutique makers, whether it be local wine, cheese, meat. I think it's going to become even more in demand because it's even more rarefied and special. But as we move forward to feed everybody from a moral obligation as chefs that I have, like every other chef does, how do we continue to feed people, especially 12 billion people in the next 80 years? And I think it's an important subject, and thank you for bringing it up.
Of course.
And, always happy to talk about it with you further.
Absolutely. I feel like there'll probably be another segment in the future where we may be talking about that.
There you go. Yep.
So Stuart, one of the other things, it's funny. So I actually have people texting me who are watching this with questions for you. Apparently they don't want to drop them in the comments. So we're doing some anonymous questions.
They're like me, no tech people.
Exactly. The no tech people. They just know my cell phone number, so they're texting. One of the anonymous questions that came in, are there any other varietals that you've considered producing and adding to the collection up at Pride Mountain Vineyards?
Well, I have a couple secrets. Some people know this. I'll let you know that we make a little bit of Sangiovese. And I told Dan and Chef sometime when we're sitting together and tasting one of those terrific wines from some foreign place, I'll tell them the story about the early years of planting Sangiovese. But Syrah for us for quite some time was a very limited production wine, and that's starting to inch up enough that we might be able to keep it in the tasting room throughout the year. You've experienced Viognier also. We make a dessert wine that a lot of people don't experience until they actually come to the winery. So that, again, it's not something that's in broad distribution. Some people always ask, because we're in Sonoma County and they're conditioned to this, and wisely they ask, do you make Pinot Noir? And historically, in 120 years of grape growing on this property, we don't believe Pinot Noir has ever been grown on the property, and we haven't. Probably the wrong soils, too high of elevation, maybe too strenuous. It'd probably be a really strong, let's say, durable, full throttle Pinot Noir, which, in my opinion, gets away from the real character that you want in an elegant Pinot Noir. The other one I have to say for fun, because, well, I'll just tell you, my wife's kind of fond of Sauvignon Blanc, and guess what? We drink some Sauvignon Blanc. We don't make it; we just like to drink it. But we don't believe in the history of growing, going back into the 1860s when the original plantings happened at Pride, that those are varieties that were ever planted there. So what we like to do is enjoy those wines made by our friends and neighbors when they make a great Pinot, or when we're at tastings with them and can have their Sangiovese. But I think if you're looking for rarity, probably the Sangiovese and perhaps our dessert wine.
All right.
The Sangiovese is quite delicious.
And then I know that we've talked about this quite a bit, and I just find it so fascinating, especially with pairing with what Chef said about it being a natural resource and a national treasure. Your wines have also been served at the White House. Am I right?
Yes, that's a classic story. In fact, 35 times now. When you visit Pride, and you can come into the tasting room, you'll see menus posted on the wall. There's 35 of them now, where our wines have been selected for different and varying state functions, diplomatic meetings, dinners, and so forth. Do I have time to tell you the quick version on the funny story on how the first one happened when the phone rang at the original tasting room, which was just a little hovel which had a cash register in it. This is in probably 1997, by the way. But at any rate, the phone rang and they said it's the White House. And I said, this is great. You know, it's another prank call, I think, from one of our neighbors wants to see if we even open or try to spook us. So I'm like, okay, hey, Dan, you take the call. It's the White House. Jim Pride happened to be there on a Sunday. He takes the call, and it ends up at the White House that said they wanted to buy 24 cases of Merlot. They were going to send a check, and they were going to send a truck and take the wine to Washington, D.C. We're like, well, sure, but what's the plan? Why would you do that? And they explained it was the 50th anniversary of NATO, and the menu was 3 courses. The middle course was a bison fillet from Colorado, and it's going to be paired with Pride Mountain Merlot. And they did exactly that. They sent a check, they sent a truck, and the wine went back to Washington. And I think we were so sort of awestruck or dismayed that we didn't ask if we could come to the dinner or attend. We never did get an invitation, by the way. But that was the first time that they produced this menu. And they said, you know, you're not supposed to publish this or circulate it, but we want you to have a copy of this menu. And that's now happened over 5 administrations, if I may say, over recent years. So it's been an honor that our wines have been featured and selected. And the gentleman that was running the wine program there for many number of years originated from Domaine Chandon in Napa. He was close to us when he was here, meaning he knew our wines and he kind of knew our cellar. So he would call up and ask for almost ridiculous things, quantities of our library wines, of our favorite wine. And I say, well, Daniel, how many cases do you really need? You'd say 6. I'm like, done. Send your check and send a truck and we'll do it again. But 35 times now, our wines have been graced at the table for different functions. So thank you for asking. That's always one of the favorite things that Suzanne likes to bring up, that our wines have been poured with different administrations.
Mm-hmm. Well, I figure between the White House and the United Nations, I mean, we're in very good company.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
And Mayacama, by the way.
I know, which actually I know this is on the fly, Dan. So I actually wanted to ask you, it just sounds like, obviously, Chef, how long have you been here? I know it's fairly recent.
Fairly recent, yes.
Yeah. So with the new, and obviously, Dan, you've been here. How long have you been here at Mayacama?
So as general manager, relatively new, a little over a year, but
Yeah.
I'd been playing here as a Vintner member for the last 15 years. So I know the club really well. I retired last June from the wine industry. I'd been in the business for about 20 years. I was at Domaine Chandon right after Daniel Shanks in that role. But it was a very quick yes again when I got the call to come here as the general manager. I've loved this club for a long time, and I was searching for a chef, and a resume came across my desk, and our HR director said, "Hey, maybe we should consider this guy for a chef." I looked at the name, started to ring a bell a little bit. I looked at the second page, and I saw Greystone in St. Helena, and I saw Chef James Corwell, and I turned to Jan, and I said, "That's Jimmy." I know Jimmy. I know Jimmy for 25 years. So Jimmy and I worked together at Greystone back in the late 90s when Greystone was first established. And it's, I think, kismet that we come together again to work here at Mayacama.
Absolutely.
What a dream it's been.
And then being connected with Max as well. I mean, it just seems like
Max
we can't go through one of these things without
Yes.
mentioning Max.
So we know Max Dooley from when Max was a young chef, right? And boy, that bright, shiny face in the teaching kitchen at Greystone every day. Jimmy and I knew Max well. So it's, it's interesting to me how all this comes together.
Yeah.
Right. And it comes together today here in this time, right, for this cause. And to me, I think from that comes greatness, right? And with wines like this and with talented chefs and the bounty and diversity that is Sonoma County, we're excited. We're really excited about this event.
So are we. And I think that really, I completely agree with what you're saying. And to everyone who's watching too, I love that we talk about that on this series because it's one of the things that doesn't necessarily get talked about otherwise. We really are a family. Stuart and Suzanne, super close. And obviously with you guys knowing Max for so long, it was such a natural partnership, coming back together. Everyone who is involved in V, eventually you're part of the family. So you can be part of the family too. Come to Sonoma Epicurean. Help support us. Buy the V Hope Trio. I already know, again, I keep getting text messages, these anonymous text messages, people ordering wine. So be prepared. Apparently there's a lot of people that just don't like commenting on something.
Does that mean I get to still make my pitch?
Pardon? Yeah, absolutely.
Well, you mentioned Max, so we have to mention Jane. And she said, Stu, if you don't pitch this, we're just going to tear up your contract and you're a goner. But I just want to remind everybody that there's great news for the holidays, of course. You can acquire these wines, which we've said, by visiting pridewines.com, but be sure to click on acquire and then scroll down and you see a beautiful picture there of the trio, the V Hope Trios. We're talking about hope today also. Now, as Suzanne likes to say, now more than ever, we all need each other. And I think we all pitch in together. We have a good outcome together. And I like to say, we want to make sure that you have plenty of cheer for the holidays. So come on, get online. By purchasing the trio, you know that we're going to donate 20% of all proceeds back to the V Foundation. We're happy to donate back and help with cancer research. And remember the motto today, victory over cancer. So order early. There could be weather. Winery office will close for the holidays. Gosh, who knows what else? I just want to let you know our shipping team is still catching up after the fires. So go ahead and get an order in. And what's going to happen is those bottles are going to show up on your front porch and you're going to drink them and you're going to want to reorder. So get that first order in right away and let's all pitch in and help the foundation. Thank you. I just want to say thank you again to all of you. You guys are awesome to work with, Chef and Dan. And of course, Amanda, you handled this very well.
I tried.
Thank you to all of you.
The joke was I was just going to sit here and let these gents
You'd
talk.
never get away with it. But just a trip.
We captured our real banter.
I know.
But we had close.
We tried.
I can't say enough great about you guys. I can't wait to see you again and share a glass of wine. But thank you for including Pride Mountain Vineyards. It's an honor for us to be here and to be involved with you.
Cheers, Stuart.
Thank you, Stuart. Thank
Cheers,
you.
Stuart. So before we finally close out, I hope you notice these gorgeous glasses that we are actually experiencing this wine from. So these are from Sophienwald, and we have a special. They are partnering with us for the Behind the V series to provide classware and also do a give back program. So you can actually buy Sophienwald stemware at the link that you see on the screen, and we'll also put that in the comments or the description so you can easily click it as well.
Right.
And you can see the give back program there as well. So you can also purchase this beautiful stemware and give back to the V Foundation. They are one of our great, oh, I see. So it's buy 6 glasses, get 2 free, and then 20% of those proceeds will be donated back to the V Foundation.
Beautiful.
You see these banners, they're for the people watching, but they're really off. So for me, so I keep track of all of the generosity that we are receiving. Okay, guys, once again, this has been so amazing. Thank you so much, Chef.
Thank you.
This has
Thank you.
been
It's great to see
awesome.
you.
Can we do it again next Thursday?
Let's do it. We'll shoot once. I feel like we need to do this again. We really do need to do this again. There's so much depth and information here. So we'll talk more because I feel like there's definitely more to be had here. I know that there's just much information that I know we're going to get plenty of questions on and dive deeper on. So maybe I'll pass this along to you.
Scratching the surface.
Exactly. It's going to be great. So again, everyone, go buy your wine, buy some glassware. It's that time of year. We'll have the recipe, Chef, on our website and social, so you can actually have the recipe from the, forgive me, it was
the pickled butternut squash salad.
Okay, there you are. Again, Dan, thank you so much for having us here. This is such an amazing partnership. We can't wait to see everybody in March. Make sure to go to SonomaEpicurean.org to check out all the information, and you can see all the wonderful things that are going to be happening here in just a few months.
It's an honor. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Well, gents, I always close out our Behind the V with raising a glass and saying, don't give up. Don't ever give up.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers. And happy holidays.
Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week.